Black Monday is finally here, and the person that's getting fired is not who we want. So let's go ahead and talk about it.
We some Indiana moves. We some Indiana moves. We some Indiana moves. I'm an Indiana move. We don't drink 1, 2, 3. We make the f***ing rules now. No more talk. Just win. Let's go.
Touchdown! I-N-D-Y! Anthony Richardson.
So before we get started, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys drop a like, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. But there's no real point in talking about last night's game, the Colts beating the Jaguars. The only real takeaways I got from it is Jonathan Taylor had 35 touches to end the season, which is kind of crazy for a running back. Juju Brents got hurt again, which is terrible because he got hurt week 1 and pretty much missed the entire season, and is finally able to play for the last game and promptly gets hurt. So I think we've talked about this before, but in the NFL, if you can't stay on the field, you're probably going to get replaced. So I wouldn't be stunned if we get another cornerback this offseason. And A.D. Mitchell continues to not get any playtime. Like, he just cannot get on the field. He doesn't get any targets. I don't know what's going on. Rookie woes or something, but I would have loved to seen him get a few more targets. But anyway, who cares about that? The main thing is today's pretty much the first day of the off season, and we can kind of start looking forward and hopefully turning the page on a few things. One thing I kind of wanted to talk about was Pat McAfee calling out the Colts organization and players as a whole. I don't really consume any of his content. Like, I don't watch his videos, I don't listen to his podcasts and that stuff. I don't watch his shows. I know he's good on TV. He was a good player. It's just not for me, respectfully. Like, I just don't really consume his content. But when he speaks like that, and when former players speak out so like intently and so like negatively about their former team, and he has like the biggest voice in sports, so that's going to make some noise. He essentially just called out our culture, saying that, a lot of the players aren't showing up on time, they're showing up late, they don't have any vision, and it starts from the top down. They haven't won anything. And a lot of the stuff that he said, I got read through that long tweet he did. Most of the stuff he said was fair. This team hasn't won anything. They haven't accomplished anything, but they do a lot of talking. They are on podcasts talking crazy. They are just have a level of like they deserve something just because they made it to the NFL or because they play for the Colts, that they just are just granted this right to win. But it's like the whole time Chris Ballard has been the GM for the Colts for the last 8 years, they have yet to win a division. Every team, the Titans, the Jaguars, and the Texans, all 3 of those teams have won it at least 2 times, and the Colts have won it 0 times. Yet the Colts are the ones with the players that are doing all the talking, that are having all the podcasts, discussions about other teams and how they want to be better and all this other stuff, but they're not showing up on the field. So as much as I, kind of dislike how McAfee went at Anthony Richardson for tapping out, the point still stands that, yeah, he did that, but the fact that he did that and thought it was okay is not an Anthony Richardson problem. It's a Colts problem. It's a culture problem. It's, why are people showing up late to meetings? Why are people showing up for treatment? Why are people late for these certain things? Why are people just not showing up? I'm not going to put that at the feet of a 22-year-old quarterback. That's for the veterans. That's for the older guys. That's for leadership. That's for coaches. That's for the GMs. That's for management. All these other guys that are above him need to hold him accountable and hold each other accountable. Like showing up late for meetings and treatment, not showing up for things, it's a bad look. Bad look top to bottom. Now, I don't know what we're going to talk about, how some of that's going to change and how some of that's not going to change here shortly. But instead of, I didn't watch the game last night because I was just over the season. There was no point in watching it. And I can tell you what, the Colts group chat, I can tell that a lot of them didn't watch it, because normally on game day, I don't look through the chat during the game. I always come back to the chat after the game, and there's usually like hundreds of messages about the game, and it's always like, we're going to the Super Bowl, we're going to the playoffs, Anthony Richardson is going to be the MVP of the league, or it's all the way to the other side where it's like our season's cooked, AR's a bum, fire everybody. It's always either extremes. Today it was just like, it was indifference, like nobody cared. There was like maybe 5 or 6 messages about the game. Like no one was interested in what I did. Instead of watching that game, I watched the Panthers and Falcons play. Now, the Falcons had something to play for. The Panthers didn't really have anything to play for. But my thing was, the reason why I picked that game for the 1 o'clock game, there weren't a lot of good 1 o'clock games to pick from to begin with. But I wanted to see Bryce Young and Michael Penix Jr., see how they looked. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to see that from Anthony Richardson. I wanted to see AR finish the season strong the way Michael Penix and Bryce Young. Like, Bryce Young had 5 touchdowns today. 5 touchdowns. He had like 3 passing and 2 rushing. Michael Penix looked good also. He had, I think, 2 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. And they both looked confident. They both looked secure. They both looked like they were having fun out there. They didn't look tight. They weren't perfect, but they both played well. And I can guarantee you, if you talk to a Falcons fan or a Panthers fan, a majority of them are going to say, I feel comfortable with the quarterbacks that we have, the young quarterbacks that, well, Michael Penix isn't young, but the young rookie second year quarterbacks that we have going into next year. I guarantee you a lot of them feel a lot better about their quarterback situation than what we feel about our quarterback situation. Now, I feel like Anthony can get better, but I don't feel as confident as those fan bases probably feel going into next season. Now, when it comes to it being Black Friday, a lot of people are under the understanding that Gus Bradley's going to get fired. Like, the defense, he's been here for 3 years. They've been a bottom 3 defense every year. This year, they led the league in missed tackles, and they have just not improved. Now, is some of that on the players? Yes. But some of that's on the scheme also, like his scheme and how far people play off of him and their lack of tackling. Like, they lead the league in missed tackles. Like, that's effort, that's coaching, that's personnel, that's a lot of things. But as a coach, it's your job to get these guys to tackle well and to make plays and to make tackles. And he hasn't done. You can look at what Gus Bradley has done the last 3 years. There's no way you can justify bringing him back as a defensive coordinator. You just can't. The defense has not been good enough. And he's going to be the fall guy, because I can tell you who is not going to be the fall guy, and that's Chris Ballard. Now I'm going to read the statement he released today. Dear Colts fans, as we close out the season, I can't tell you how disappointed I am that we failed to win the AFC South and earn a playoff appearance. There's a high standard in this city for our team and anyone who steps on the field wearing the horseshoe. The expectation is to win our division and compete for championships. Just being on the doorstep of the playoffs is not the standard I expect, nor what you deserve. We understand that and always accept the challenge. Believe me, I know you share my impatience and frustration. I know you invest your time, energy, and money into the Colts every year. More than anything, we want to reward you with the division titles, playoff runs, and we've fallen short in the most painful ways possible. Emphasis on painful. But things evolve quickly in the NFL from week to week and season to season, so I will never stop being optimistic that this team can take the next step. I've been evaluating our entire operations, and I believe in Chris Ballard. I believe in Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen and our collective ability to make the improvements needed to take us to the next level in 2025. I know fans who want an immediate change in leadership will be disappointed. That means we have a lot to prove. So we'll be back to work and keep doing what we can to earn your support and make you proud to be a Colts fan. Yeah, so that pretty much means we're running it back. So Chris Ballard coming back, Shane Steichen coming back, and we're going to blame Gus Bradley on the failure of this season. All the free agents that we probably don't want back, like Mo Alley Cox, EJ Speed, Kylan Granson, all those guys are probably getting re-signed because Chris Ballard does not go out and pay free agents. Like, it's disappointing, it's frustrating, it's annoying, and this is what this is our life right now. This is our life, and we pretty much have to pray that AR becomes who we envisioned him to be on draft night. The only thing we can hope is that this team gets on the same timeline and gets Anthony on some sort of development plan, because it just doesn't seem like they've had a plan from the start of this season. Last season, it felt like they did. This season, everything just kind of fell off the rails. Players, coaches don't seem to be on the same page. There seems to be a division. It just, this season was just a season from hell. And a lot of people expected Chris Ballard to get fired this offseason. If he didn't get fired in 2022, he's never going to get fired. He will get fired when Shane Steichen is fired. I fully believe that at this point. I feel like they're on the same trajectory or timetable. If Shane it turns out to be a failure, then that means Chris Ballard is out. Because as a GM who's been in the league for over 8 years, you don't get to fire 3 coaches and keep your job. Like, he fired Chuck Pagano, he fired Frank Reich, and then if he fires Shane Steichen, then that's his last day, because you don't get another chance to bring in another head coach. You don't get another chance to bring in a franchise quarterback. It's up to someone else. So I don't know what kind of power or spell Chris Ballard has over Jim Irsay, but either his agent is the best, or he's just... It's not that Chris Ballard is bad at his job. He's good. He's a good GM to bring in to, like, if I was the Panthers, I would want a GM like Chris Ballard who's going to move out some of those bad players, clean up your cap, find you some production in the later rounds, build up a solid foundation. But for me, it seems like the Colts believed that they were a contender, and Chris Ballard isn't the type to really take a roster over the top. He can get your floor higher, but that ceiling, he's just not going to be able to reach that. He just hasn't been able to bring in players that take you over the top. There's really, like, outside of Jonathan Taylor, Quentin Nelson, we haven't had any, like, outside explosiveness. Like, we haven't really had, like, that explosive wide receiver, like that unguardable, unquestionable wide receiver one. We haven't had a legit elite pass rusher since Robert Mathis. Like, we just don't have the playmakers. We just have guys that are just good enough, that are just okay, that are just fine. And Jim Irsay is fine with that. And that is our life. That is the life that we have to live for the next, I don't know how long Chris Ballard's contract is for, but he's not getting fired. So it's one of the things where it's like, stop asking. It's not going to happen. This is our life. So I'm glad the season's over. The next video we do is going to be, we're going to kind of break down the fourth quarter of the season, the last 5 games of the season, and then kind of give an overview of the entire season. And then the day that I'm not really looking forward to, we're going to go back and review my preseason video about this team and where I thought that this team was going to be and how successful we were going to be. And we're pretty much going to roast me on my own channel. So that's going to be an interesting video, to say the least. And yeah, maybe one day at the end of the season, we can look forward to the playoffs. But with Chris Ballard coming back, not going to happen. So I can't even say I enjoyed the season, but it is what it is. So till next time, go Colts.
Thanks for watching, babe. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel.